Hello, welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue, and tonight we have an interesting article by Petronella Wyatt, the journalist who says she's got friends that have seen Meghan going out and about in Santa Barbara and LA, but without Harry. Yesterday, we were talking about all the headlines that are being generated about the possible separation and divorce of the Harkles, and there are so many signals out there that you need a bird's eye view of the whole thing. But at first, I was a little confused by Petronella's article. I did not understand her position at first, until I realized the true meaning behind her words. A bit of a spoiler, it has to do with Meghan wanting to destroy the narrative about couple problems. And somehow she wants to get the love out of the equation. So this is Petronella's post for The Telegraph. The Sussexes will not divorce. Their marriage is their power. Experience has held more relationships together than that crazy thing called love. Well, sounds quite pragmatic, don't you think? I would even say that the headlines and subtitles sounds written by Methane herself. The Sussexes' marriage has become the subject of a commentariat sweepstake. Over the weekend, Princess Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, was the latest to wager that the couple are heading for their personal Götterdämmerung and that Harry will return as inevitable as the asp at Cleopatra's breast to the shores of his motherland. Well, most probably he will find the country closed. Like, we are closed for the weekend, Harry. Better go back to California. Come back some other time. It is an increasingly prevalent view, but one I hold no truck with. Harry and Meghan may be one-trick ponies, but I doubt they will ever consciously uncouple. Consider the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, whose own marriage was not expected to last. Whenever they were apart, people who met them noticed that this apartness diminished rather than enhanced them. Well, I find that word funny, diminished, and it has a lot to do with body language, by the way. They did not stand up singly as they did as a couple. According to friends of mine in LA who know Harry and Meghan socially, their dependence on each other is similar and due seemingly to some inner lack in themselves. Well, lack of self-awareness and lack of sense of ridicule are a real thing. Just ask Fergie. With all this princely social perfection, there's a boring blandness of personality about Harry that makes him less interesting alone than as a partner to the streetwise firebrand he has married. When Meghan goes her own way, she can be jarring. As was once said of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, he gives her class and she gives him sex appeal. Now you understand how this sounds like a work of fiction because it implies that Harry has class and Meghan has sex appeal. I mean, anyone can have the best intentions, but we are stretching the laws of physics here. You cannot give what you don't have yourself. And I want to point out the reality of codependent relationships because I think what the author of this piece is trying to do is to disguise what is truly happening behind closed doors at Montecito. What's to know about codependent relationships? A person who is codependent will plan their entire life around pleasing the other person or the enabler. In its simpler terms, a codependent relationship is when one partner needs the other partner, who in turn needs to be needed. This circular relationship is the basis of what experts refer to when they describe this cycle of codependency. The codependent's self-esteem and self-worth will come only from sacrificing themselves for their partner, who is only too glad to receive their sacrifices. Do you think this sounds like Harry and Meghan? Because to make things even more complicated, this doesn't even take into account narcissism. You can have a codependent couple and none of them have a narcissistic disorder. That's why I'm telling you, Harry and Meghan's case is one of a kind and very public. I'm just glad that they are not that popular with the youth because they will be given the worst possible example. Together, the Sussexes are a phenomenon, inescapably visible, if increasingly hard to explain. What forces combined to produce them in the first place, and how have they managed to hold out so long against the blasts of disheartening misunderstanding and misrepresentation? Now, trigger warning, because at this point, the article becomes stomach churning. There is something almost heroic in the way they have held their perilous ground, disdaining all compromise, unmoved by their vociferous critics. They have faced every conceivable form of attack that rational people are capable of mounting, and yet they have scarcely budged an inch. Wow, is it crack? Is that what you smoke? You smoke crack? Even when their nearly catastrophic 2 hour car chase was shown to be as questionable as a 30-pound note, it failed to move them. They still plod along in the cheerless and laborious way they first marked out for themselves and are as undaunted by legal rulings as they are by abuse. I told you this has Meghan written all over. If anything, they are more unyielding than ever, and their fearless standard bearer, Omid Scobie, has earned a reluctant and resigned sort of testimony, though I am concerned that the evolution of his eyebrows is beginning to mirror that of Joan Crawford's. No one quite believes in other people's marriages. There's always a flavor of doubt, a feeling half instinctive and half logical that one party is taking the other for a ride and therefore must have something nefarious up their sleeve. Male commentators tend to take this view more than women. They fail to understand that members of my sex enter into marriages or any relationship expecting very little in the way of fairy tales, and to most women, marriage is just a transaction. Well, saying that most women feel this way is a bit depressing. In regards to human nature, I know I've had my fair share of cynical takes, but romanticism is not something that you study with the scientific method. In fact, it's like the moment you try to put your rational goggles on, then the purpose or the meaning of romanticism just flies out the window. Saying that for most women, marriage is a daily transaction, well, maybe there were times of humanity in which arranged marriages were the norm, and there are still cultures that promote this practice. But let's face it, chemistry is not something you can force into someone. But let's read the last line of this article. The Sussex's marriage is expedient, and expedience has held more relationships together than that crazy thing called love, which, as Thomas Hardy, a man who did understand women, once wrote, is as evanescent as steam. Well, I haven't read much from Thomas Hardy, but even if his analogy is accurate, that love just evaporates and leaves you with nothing, even couples with the greatest chemistry have to work together for a relationship to work. It's the silliest myth that when a man and a woman are meant to be together, there will be no bumps or obstacles or arguments. On the contrary, there will always be some kind of friction. And even if love was like steam, well, you just need to pour more water and keep the fire burning. You can always produce more steam, but it needs two to work. And by the way, saying that Meghan and Harry's marriage is expedient is affirming that Meghan cannot do this on her own. Oh, so much for women empowerment. My royal rogues, we are so close to being 125,000. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button and click on the notifications bell to support my channel. The two most important words: much love and bliss.